Mr Chair, I'd just like to address a couple of things that have come up, and one in particular to the member that was just speaking. So Housing New Zealand's, in this part of the part 2 of the bill, Housing New Zealand's existing legislative framework was not designed for the social housing transactions and does not allow ministers to execute transfers of Housing New Zealand properties. In particular, Housing New Zealand is a Crown entity governed at arm's length from ministers and according to its own legislation. As such, we don't want to change that legislation. We don't want to change the main purpose of the Housing New Zealand. We certainly agree with many of what the member was saying. That's why we are putting this into the bill, so that, yes, the government has a program where we are admitting transactions. Members have opinions on whether that's the right thing to do or not. That's perfectly their right. But what this does is actually allow us to put the government's program into place and not actually change what the board is there to do and what their role is. Speaking to the member before this member, and he certainly spoke about the governance of Housing New Zealand and how he felt that this was putting undue influence, and certainly quoted what that meant to be in a governing board and the responsibilities. I would say to him that's exactly the point, that we want to ensure that we are making sure that they are true to what their role is, what they're governed for, and as I've already said, it is within their legislative framework that they are not designed to actually execute these transfers, and instead of actually messing with what their governance role is, we take that so that we can actually administer the government's program. Going to the speaker before that, who talked quite a bit about how we ensure that there's a number of provisions to ensure that the transaction mandate powers are exercised appropriately. So one of the first things I would say is we've got 2 ministers there, and there's a reason for that. So we've got joint accountability, and we ensure that that's there, and we actually didn't have to do that. It could have been just one, but we felt that having the 2 gives it that the double trouble, I suppose. The power to execute social housing transactions, as proposed in sections 50E, can only be exercised for the purpose of one or more of the social housing reform objectives, and we purposely put that in so that everyone can see what we're doing and that it's true to the objectives. The bill also ensures there is public and parliamentary visibility, as the member said, that they have to be gazetted in a notice outlining the transaction, and it must be tabled in this Parliament, and we purposely put that in to make sure that there is that visibility and we are actually there. Ministers are subject to the usual public and administrative law requirements to act reasonably, fairly and lawfully. If a member of the public or organisation or Housing New Zealand thought the government had executed a transaction that didn't serve the social housing reform objectives, for example, they can apply for a judicial review. So all of the concerns that the members have raised, we had actually thought through and have implemented into this paper to make sure that we have to make sure that we have the right checks and balances to ensure that what we are doing is ensuring that ministers can administer the government's program and that we stay true to the legislative framework of the governing board of Housing New Zealand. Thank you, sir.
I think the members already had full